But anyway, yeah. So all right, so let's talk about some college football. So just kind of an overview, Clark. The way things are going now, like this college football season. I mean, maybe it's not different, but it just kind of seems different. I just feel like the teams, for the most part, excluding teams like Indiana, and Miami that are playing weak schedules, for the most part, especially the SEC and the Big Ten teams, the schedules have been a little more difficult. So it seems like you watch some of the games. I mean, Georgia just looks like they've run out of gas.
Yeah.
I mean, they just look like they've done as much as they can, and they're trying to just figure it out on the fly here. Alabama, I feel like is getting better, and Georgia is getting worse. Like, even you watch Georgia yesterday, I mean, they were afraid. They're now afraid to let Carson Beck throw the ball down the field because of how many interceptions he's thrown and how bad he's played. They're now adjusted to, we're not going to be that aggressive on offense now. And so I don't know what to make of this team. So, the way it's looking, Clark, I mean, is it going to be like the NFL playoffs? Is somebody going to get hot and win the title?
I mean, could be, because you've got, we're letting more teams in, so that when you do that, then you have a possibility of something like that happening, which is pretty cool, because college football has never been like that.
Right.
I mean, ever, because it was totally exclusive for one team or a few teams. Like, so now, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll see, I mean, Oregon's still undefeated. Ohio State lost to Oregon by 1 point.
Right.
Yeah, and then Miami, they're kind of a fraud, obviously. I mean, they lose to Georgia Tech. I mean,
yeah. So I watched that game, and I mean, here's the thing, and this is the point that I made to you when I sent you the text. Everybody ripped the committee. They're like, "Oh, these guys, what are they doing? This is ridiculous, brand bias," and they claimed all this nonsense last week. When the rankings came out on Tuesday. Okay, almost all the results from this weekend basically backed up what the committee's been telling us.
right.
Okay. Now, other than Miami fourth, I thought was ridiculous. Like, I don't understand what we're doing with that, because I've been saying Miami's a fraud the whole season. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, when the season started, I'm like, if they make the playoff, it'll be because of the schedule. It's not because they're awesome. And then you watch the games, and it's like, they should have lost to Cal. They should have lost to Virginia Tech. They easily could have lost to Duke. Like, they're pulling these games literally. You want to talk about the Chiefs pulling games out of their ass? Watch the University of Miami play. This is just like, and this game against Georgia Tech, it was literally like the attitude of the team was like, whatever, we're behind, who cares, we'll win. And that's kind of how they were. But Georgia Tech had the right game plan. We're like, we're going to run the ball. We're going to hang on to it. We're going to have a better time in possession, and we're going to make it impossible for you to pull this off. We're going to limit your possessions. And so, they ended up just kind of falling short and they put too much pressure on themselves. And listen, Cam Ward's awesome, and he's up for the Heisman, but the dude it's like he's playing in the backyard. He thinks he can just hang out in the pocket for 15 seconds every play. And I don't care what level you're at, you can't do that. And so, so I've been saying forever that, people have been telling me, the resume, blah, blah, blah. And they're telling me that Miami should be fourth. And I'm like, this is a joke. So there's a couple things. I think the media that covers college football, this is a few things I've learned off of these rankings. And I didn't realize this until the rankings came out and everybody yelled and screamed about it. They like Miami. They don't like Penn State. People think Penn State is just not good because they can't beat Ohio State. So people think Penn State sucks. They think Tennessee, they're like, for some reason, there's no value in Tennessee beating Alabama. Everybody's like, Tennessee, whatever. They just don't think much of them. And everyone complains that Indiana should be ranked higher. Now, what I would say to that is, when I did my top 12 last week, I did not realize that Penn State had the 26th strength of schedule. And Indiana, I knew Indiana's strength of schedule was bad, but I didn't know it was 103rd. So, when they put Penn State ahead of Indiana, everybody's like, how can you do that? That makes no sense. I'm like, no, it makes perfect sense. Penn State's strength of schedule is significantly better than Indiana. And Penn State losing to Ohio State by a touchdown is better than anything Indiana has done. Okay? The best team Indiana just played was Michigan. yesterday. That was their best win. Okay. And people are like, Michigan, and Michigan is now 5-5. So, that was their best win. So yeah, I thought, so once I saw that, I was like, oh, well, I didn't realize that. So yeah, no, I definitely would have Penn State above Indiana. I mean, Penn State, yeah, they don't have like amazing wins, okay, but they beat Illinois. They almost beat Ohio State. Indiana has nothing on their resume. Yes, they've blown everybody out, and I give them credit for that. But my argument the whole time was, why is Miami not where Indiana is?
Right.
So, I guess so the committee, they're stubbing for Indiana. They're crazy about Indiana. Indiana's being disrespected, but yet they want to tell me that Penn State isn't good. So they were on, Booger McFarland was on Ryan Russillo's podcast, and Ryan's asking him these questions, and he just says, all right, so straight up, Penn State plays Miami, who would win? And I'm like, I thought it was obvious. I was like, oh, Penn State. Because Penn State's better on both lines of scrimmage. Yes, I know Penn State's offense isn't awesome, but their defense is really good. They should basically shut down Ohio State's offense in that game, right? They've got NFL players all over the place, and they can run the ball.
Yeah.
And Booger McFarland's like, oh, Miami, because they're so explosive on offense. It's just like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I was just totally lost. I was like, what are you talking about? And then Miami this weekend, all their explosiveness gets them 23 points.
Yeah.
And they're playing Georgia Tech. It's not like they're playing some awesome team. And it just, so yeah, I didn't know, I didn't understand where what's the deal? What's the deal with people just like, I know Penn State can't beat Ohio State, whatever. But I think the mistake, and this is, I'll let you talk after this. My overall point is that, Clark, I think people are thinking if you put the team in the 12-team playoff, they have to be able to win the national championship. And that's never been the case, and it's not going to be the case the way this thing works.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're going to get a bunch of people commenting on that, like, oh, this, why are you putting this team in? They can't win. And it's going to be like, that's not the point. And I thought that's what you guys wanted. You wanted other teams to have a chance. You're like, oh, well, they don't really have a chance. It's like, well, we did tell you this before, like when you guys were complaining about this stuff, and it's like, now you've just switched. So, yeah, what are you going to do?
And so I guess that's my overall thing. And then on Todd McShay's new podcast, which is really good, by the way, I recommend it to anybody out there. Especially if you're interested in like NFL draft stuff and college football. He got some numbers from FanDuel on this. And he said if Indiana played BYU, who would be favored? Indiana would be favored by 8. So what that tells me, Clark, is that the coaches, especially there's like a bunch of coaches and former players on the CFP committee.
Yeah.
They're watching this with the eye test, and they're watching Indiana play, and they're watching BYU play, and they're going, yeah. And they're watching Penn State play, and they're watching Indiana play, and they're going, okay, this Penn State team is better than them. So I don't, and now I don't agree with everything the committee did. Like I would have had BYU ahead of Indiana because BYU has 2 top 25 wins.
Yeah.
Are they the greatest wins ever? No. But it's just, to me, when it comes down to that, when you haven't played anybody and your strength of schedule is far worse than everybody else, I don't have a choice. Like I just feel like resume has got to take over at some point. Yes, I think Indiana's really good, and we'll see how good they are. They play Ohio State in a couple of weeks, and so we'll see if it's legit or not. But yeah, the other thing that annoys me, Clark, is just the constant, well, they're going to be eliminated. This is an elimination game. It's an elimination game, Clark. Look out. Oh, I just want you to know. It's an elimination game. We want as many teams in the playoff as we can get. But you know what? This is every week now. Is it like the LSU Alabama game? I just kept going. And I hate that I want to keep correcting people, but it's just like, that was an elimination. It was more of an elimination game for Alabama than LSU yesterday, because LSU still only has 2 conference losses. Now, do they need a lot of things to go their way to get into the SEC championship game? Yeah, but they're not done. It's not officially over. If Alabama had lost with 3 conference losses, yeah, they're probably out of the playoff because you're probably not getting an at large, and you're far less likely to make the SEC title game. But it's just that wasn't really like, we can say this all we want, but we don't really know what's an elimination game. Like, I've gone back and forth, but I don't know what's going to happen because we've never seen it before. Is a 3-loss team going to get in? Maybe. Like, upsets keep happening every week. Every week it's like, well, what's going to happen? I don't know. And they're worried. Like, that's the other thing. Like, I mean, I know ESPN can't do this. They can't get up there and say these rankings really aren't that important. But like, you can't go when a team's like Notre Dame's 10th, right? You can't go, oh man, these teams are going to pass them. Like, what are they going to do? And it's like, no, what's going to happen is other teams are going to lose. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because it happens every single week.
Mm-hmm.
Other teams are going to lose. They're going to fall, whatever. So just keep winning. Just keep winning and you'll be fine. And then the AP poll today, Clark, Notre Dame went from 10th to 8th. So, just win. That's all you got to do. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun, but I don't understand, I don't understand the hate for Penn State. I don't understand the Tennessee thing. Like, to me, I would have Tennessee third. Like, I know Texas is probably the better team and they probably have better players, but Texas got their ass kicked by Georgia and they haven't really beaten anyone, and Tennessee beat Alabama. So I'm confused, and I don't envy the committee because this is going to be really hard to do. I kind of wish I was watching BYU against Utah. It was on late last night, and BYU almost lost. Like, it came down to the last drive, and there was a penalty call that basically changed the game. But God, it was like, oh man, if BYU loses, this is going to be much better. This might be better for everybody, but they might lose anyway. And let me tell you something, Clark. This is going to happen. I was looking at the AP poll today. So Ole Miss is Georgia. Georgia's 11th right now in the AP poll, Clark. Georgia, if the playoffs started next week, Georgia would not be in because Miami and Boise State are right behind them.
Yeah.
They would get in for the conference champions or whatever. And so people are going to flip out about this. There's going to be when this eventually goes down, because I think BYU is going to eventually lose. So the ACC champion and the Big 12 champion are probably not going to be ranked in the top 12. So the conference champions are going to get in automatically. So so if you're not ranked in the top 10, you're probably not going to make the playoff. So some team like that, Georgia or Tennessee or Ole Miss or one of those teams, is not going to get in. Like the 5th SEC team, there's not going to be enough space for it. And people are realizing now, oh man, these spots are filling up quickly. And so
yeah, and the whole lower, conference champion ranked outside of the top 10, that's going to be hilarious, because then people are going to be like, oh, well, I think you got to do something about this. It's like, guys, what you wanted automatic bids. Like, I don't understand. Right. Like, this is what you wanted. You got what you wanted. Like, what are you complaining about? Them's the breaks. I don't know what to tell you.
Like this week on the Monday morning radio show, I forget which one it is, what they call it on ESPN radio, but it's Chris Canny was complaining about this. I hate this. BYU should not be getting a bye. It's like, that's ridiculous, and it's like, I can tell he doesn't. And the thing is, this is the other thing, Clark, that I told you about the other day. All these TV networks and these sports networks talk about the NFL. They don't talk about college football. College football, only the networks that talk about it are the ones that broadcast it. And even when they do like one segment in their 2-hour show on it. Mm-hmm. They don't really dive into it. So the national media is watching the NFL. They're not paying attention to college football. Yeah. So when we get to the end of this, and so Chris Canny is complaining about this, that's too much. It's a huge advantage for BYU to get a bye. It's like, it's actually not, because every team's going to get at least 2 weeks off before the first round of games, and the teams that get the bye are going to get a month off, or they're going to get like 24 25 days off.
Yeah.
So it's going to be negligible. There's not going to be like, it's not like one team. It's not like the NFL where one team's going to get an extra week off and the other team's going to be, the other team's going to be playing every week. You don't play every week in this college football playoff thing. So I just think that's going to be quite, so he's complaining about that. And then he's like, the best four teams should get and like my response is, well, look, NFL teams, if you play in a bad division and you win the division, like remember when Tampa won a couple years ago, they were 8-9.
Yeah.
And they hosted they got a home playoff game. It's like, what's the difference? Like you win a bad division, you get a home playoff game. So,
yeah.
And the other thing is, this is just like, we're fine with it in the basketball tournament. We have no issue when all these teams from the Southland Conference and the Ohio Valley Conference, they get a team in. No one complains then. Everyone's fine with it.
Yeah.
So why is this such a nightmare in this scenario? So let me get this straight. A 2 or 3 loss SEC team that probably hasn't really beaten anybody is going to get left out. Oh, damn. But it's going to be quite exciting. People are going to be claiming, brand bias, and they're going to be doing all this nonsense. And, Indiana was up to 5th in the AP poll. So, and listen, the CFP isn't going to be exactly like it, but it's going to be pretty similar.
Right.
There were just a couple of changes for the top like 17 teams. There were like 2 of them were switched. It wasn't really dramatic. So it's going to be pretty close to that. So if Indiana's like 5th, then it's fine. They can lose to Ohio State. They'll be 11-1, and they'll probably still be in the playoff. So everything will be fine. But yeah, I just I'm enjoying it, Clark. The uproar about it that literally doesn't make any sense, and nobody can use their brain to just figure out, it's obvious. But yeah,
that's not what you're supposed to do in the sports media. You're not supposed to use your brain and actually figure stuff out. You're supposed to get outraged and think about it for 2 seconds and create an opinion based on that, based on your first reaction. Like, you can't pay Jaylen Brown $300 million. It's like, well, what else are you going to do? Well, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just, like, well, they shouldn't be ranked ahead of them. It's like, why not? And then I love the answers. Like everyone wants, it's just hysterical to me. Everyone complained about polls forever. And then now they want to do exactly what what the old AP poll would have done. Well, Indiana's undefeated. So they should be that. So that's how it should be, Clark. We should just put the undefeated teams first and rank them, and then do the 1-loss teams and rank them, and then do the 2-loss teams and rank them. No discernment or trying to figure out who's played who or any of that. No, we shouldn't do any of that. Indiana should just be ahead of them because they're undefeated.
Yeah. Pretty hilarious. You'd think everybody would be happy now, but no, we can't. We can't be happy. We gotta figure out some way to complain about it and say this isn't what we want. It's kind of the game in sports media anyway.
Oh yeah, it's just ridiculous, and it's like, guys, it's fine. And everything that happened this weekend, okay, Miami lost. Like, okay, I thought Miami was a fraud the whole time. I don't know why the committee had them 4th or whatever. Right. Let's see. Ole Miss beat Georgia. What was the other one? I mean, BYU almost lost to Utah. Right. Everybody was complaining about, Indiana should be ranked ahead of Penn State. Well, Indiana struggled with Michigan, right? Indiana and Penn State have both played Washington now. Indiana beat Washington by about 14. Penn State beat them by 29 this weekend. So, we have a common opponent now, and Washington also beat Michigan, which Indiana really struggled with. And so I just, it feels to me like, and then Tennessee had their backup quarterback in and beat Mississippi State handily anyway.
Right.
So it just, I think the committee's they're on the right track with this. They had Indiana ahead of BYU, and everybody's like, I didn't agree with it, but the way this weekend went kind of proved what they were talking about. So I really think, they're doing a lot of eye test. And I think if the strength of schedule is dramatic, it's kind of showing up. And when you talk about Penn State and Indiana, it is dramatic. 26th versus 103rd that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And so, I think Penn State and Tennessee should be, top 4 or 5. And we'll see how Indiana does. And Penn State lost to Ohio State by 7. So if Indiana plays Ohio State better than that, okay, then we can have or equal to, because they're playing in Columbus. Whereas Penn State got that game at home. If they play them well, then we can have a discussion about that.
Right.
But yeah, this is going to be I'm really fascinated by this, and to have a possible SEC championship game between Tennessee, Texas, or Texas A&M, like 2 out of those 3 teams in it, and no Alabama, no Georgia, no LSU is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, I didn't have much else. I just wanted to point out that, all the media complaining about it, I don't understand you guys. There are solid reasons for all of these things that they're doing. You guys just choose to ignore them.
Yeah. But some people, you just can't, I don't know. They come up with an argument, and then you're like, do you know what a tariff is? And they're like, no. It's like, okay. Well, anyway. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I didn't realize this team would get a bye. It's like, you guys never paid attention to it. You guys don't cover college football. You don't care that much about it. And then you jump in like last year when, they weren't talking about college football all the time. And then Mike Greenberg jumps in when Florida State gets knocked out of the playoffs. It's like, this is an outrage. It's like, bitch, you just find out about this 5 minutes ago.
Do you care about this, really? Like, you guys hardly ever talk about it. Granted, who knows how much they're watching, because the way sports shows are, they just have to talk about the NFL just nonstop. But they talk about it on the Le Batard show a ton. So, we'll see how they react. They were obviously complaining, no one wants a 12-team playoff. Okay.
Except everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's getting, I'm just getting so frustrated with all of this. Like, it's just, the answers are in front of people's face, and they just don't want to hear it. And so, sometimes you can't, as we proved this week, Clark, sometimes you just can't, people don't want to help themselves. You can't help them if they don't want to be helped.
Yeah.
Anyway,